favorite Storytellers Club podcast, the place for ideas on how to find, how to hone and share stories that ignite and inspire. I'm your host, Eamonn O'Brien, and coming up today, we'll be talking about the stories behind your ideas and your brands, and how to extend the power of those stories through social media. I am thrilled to be joined today by the queen of all things marketing on LinkedIn. She's an author, speaker, a writer for Forbes Inc., social media examiner, and a pal who's known as the LinkedIn expert. It's Vivica von Rosen. Hey, Vivica.
Hey, how are you?
I am in great form. I'm delighted to catch up with you again. So now you are absolutely the expert, my go-to expert when it comes to LinkedIn. And we're talking today about how to extend the power of stories in social media. Yeah. So for people who are not really making as much use of LinkedIn as they might, why should business leaders, thought leaders, be using LinkedIn to create visibility for stories?
Yeah, and it's what you said earlier. You know, you might have some amazing things happen to you. You might have been interviewed on an amazing podcast like this or by Fast Company. Yeah, good, huh? You might have released a book. You might have been asked to speak at a big event. And if you're not sharing that information, and if that level of expertise, if that story, as it were, isn't reflected on your LinkedIn profile, then maybe no one's going to know about it. When people Google you, your LinkedIn profile is often the first thing that shows up. And that's sometimes where people stop, right? They go to your profile, they go, meh, and then they move on to the next, speaker, trainer, business person, etc. So you got to make sure that all that good stuff that really proves your expertise and proves your influence and tells your story, that all of that good stuff is reflected on LinkedIn.
Yeah, no, 100%. And actually, you used a really important word there, which is the notion of not just being seen, but being shared. So when it comes to what causes people to, first of all, to read or to watch your content, because now videos become more important.
Right.
So firstly, what are people reading? What are they watching? And what's the trigger to get people to share it?
Yeah. So, so first of all, as far as just content is concerned, LinkedIn native video is going through the roof, followed very closely by long form posts, followed, by regular posts, followed by, way behind that. Unfortunately, one of my used to be favorite tools, LinkedIn Publisher, but LinkedIn video is so powerful right now. So, that is one of the first things I'm recommending to my clients who really want to position themselves as influencers and experts in their industry and build more visibility and build more credibility is you got to get on video. You have to get on video, and you have to use the native video feature, because it's not good enough just to share a YouTube link. You have to share that native video feature. And then as far as what types of content, I think more important than the types of content you share is the authenticity, enthusiasm, and charisma that you build with your video, which is helped by sharing good content and by being, and by being knowledgeable and credible. But, it's all about your personality and how that comes across in video. There's a couple individuals who just nail it, and they're getting between 15 and 25,000 views per video.
Wow.
Because
that's amazing. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
and
wow.
Yeah.
So what's the secret to their success?
Well, and it's interesting. So one of them is my friend Jim Keenan, who's a sales leader, sales author, and he is very authentic, transparent, in your face, somewhat controversial. He definitely leads with the edge of controversy. His video titles and his languaging around his videos is always like, things like your LinkedIn profile doesn't matter. And then of course everyone's like, oh, yes, it does.
Hey, wait.
Yeah. Well, and so yes, that's the reaction, right? But if you actually listen to the video, your LinkedIn profile doesn't matter. The brand you build with LinkedIn does. And so that's, he's always pulling that kind of controversial edge to things. And so, he gets just an enormous amount of visibility. And even people who like disagree with him, when you disagree with someone on their feed, you're still sharing their stuff to your network. And so the more controversy, and he never does anything completely controversial. He does, but
it makes you stop.
But it makes you stop. It makes you look, hopefully you listen enough to realize that he's actually pulling the switcheroo game. But he's still very authentic. It's not manipulated at all. It's very much who he is. And he uses language, he swears. Right. And that turns some people off, but other people are like, yeah, I effing believe you too. And so that's where, know your audience, audience. The other person is our friend Sue Zimmerman, who's an Instagram expert, and right, we love Sue. Yeah. And what she's done so brilliantly, all of the video tips that she teaches about Instagram, of course, apply 90% to LinkedIn too. And so she's able to bring that great visual combined with great content, combined with a great personality, combined with, filters and everything else that she can do with LinkedIn. And so while her videos don't look produced, they look very, they look very official. Well, no, what's the word I'm looking for? They look good. They look really good.
Yeah. I was just thinking, as you were saying that, because I've noticed her videos quite a bit. And I think the thing that pops out immediately is that she's clearly thought in advance about telling a story, storyboards it actually.
She does. She absolutely, yeah. And so to your point, what makes a good video is whether you're kind of winging it, but you know what you're going to talk about, or you actually have a storyboard that comes out. It is the storytelling aspect and how you bring that through. And I sometimes miss that. I get on and I give the latest, coolest tip on LinkedIn and I get really enthusiastic about it, but I don't really storyboard it out. And so sometimes I miss some key points, like why you should actually be utilizing this tip, not just what the strategy or the feature is, but why you should be utilizing the feature. And so storyboarding, I think, is so very key to having a good video on LinkedIn. And it's not about, it's not about spending 14 hours on a professional style storyboard. It could be just bullets in a script that you have. Yeah. But we're using a script if you use teleprompter. But at least having some talking points there so that your story becomes more cohesive, has a beginning, middle, and end to it. Things like that can really help to build credibility in your audience as well.
Yeah. Now, actually, it's interesting because I've experimented with both the live or the native video and also then just doing links, and I get about 4 times more views. Now, I've had in the thousands. I haven't had 20,000, but the one that got the most views was the one which was just 6 clips of me doing daft things, but it was
exactly
fun. Throwing books over my shoulder, losing the run of myself, and so it just goes to show.
Yeah. It's people want to know you. And I think that's why native video. So two things. Native video gets more visibility because LinkedIn likes it more because it's native. And so they're actually going to promote it more than they are a link. A link can be an advertisement in their algorithm, but a native video they feel is more authentic, is and so they're going to promote it more. So you're going to get more visibility. My videos get at least 10 times as much visibility as an average, sharing a link or an average update. So that's definitely one thing. But I think video does so well, and in particular native video, because just more people see it, because people get a sense of who you are.
Yeah, they can see you and hear you.
They can see you. Now, it can also work against you, because I know people on LinkedIn, and I've known them through LinkedIn for ages, and we've maybe had phone calls, and we've maybe texted back and forth or emailed back and forth. And I have a picture of who they are because I literally have their picture on LinkedIn. And then they start using video. And you're like, whoa, dude, that's not you. Like, you need to update your photo, you know?
Photoshop alert,
Yeah, Photoshop alert, exactly. So so that's where it can work against you. Or if you're super uncomfortable with video, you know, the nice thing about native video, it's not live. It's native, but you still have to upload it. So you know what? Do 40 shoots until you have one where you feel comfortable and where you're engaging with the audience instead of reading script or talking necessarily. You know, just get comfortable. Just get comfortable with video, and that will make everything so much better. And to your point, you want to be human. I mean, bloopers are great. I think also one of Sue's most viewed videos ever was her blooper video. So, you know, be willing to take the piss out of yourself, as it were.
I like that lot, actually, because I do a thing called Go Do Video, which is about showing people how to create interesting content with just your smartphone, with Amanda Webb, who you will have met over in social media marketing world. But
yes, exactly.
But anyway, the biggest story we ever got out on Instagram was when we turned up at our venue, and this was in city centre in London, and we were wondering why it was so cheap. And so I said to the guy, so what landmark can we use to find it? And he said, well, it's directly opposite the Dixon's, which is like a computer store.
Yeah.
And it was, but then what she didn't tell me was it was directly over a shop that sold very naughty things. Battery operated. And the whole morning we got having a great buzz at Go Do Video this morning. And
oh my God, that's awesome.
and so that got shared. But maybe that's a good segue going back to, so of the things that you put out there that you notice get shared a lot more, can you put your finger on what you think, you know, I can see why people gravitate towards that.
Well, I mean, and so personally, obviously, it's going to be different because I'm a LinkedIn expert on LinkedIn, teaching and training on LinkedIn. So, you know, my videos that get the most views are because, thank you, LinkedIn, they're so woefully late in writing blog posts about their new features that I'm usually, right, I can usually share and share a video around a new feature long before LinkedIn actually does. And because the content is searchable, sometimes that native video will actually show up in a Google search. So that helps to drive an enormous amount of traffic. So that's
really cool.
Yeah, not always, but once in a while. And it's like, oh, that's cool. So that's part of it. But for everyone else who's not a LinkedIn expert using LinkedIn, I always think there's a combination of things that do really well that I see. Certainly, you know, tips and tricks around your industry. Now, if you've got a super niche industry, don't worry about not getting 50,000 views, because of the 2,000 views that you get, and the 200 comments or 100 or 50 or 5 comments, it's probably your niche market. And, you know, someone wrote an article or wrote a response to my video a couple days ago saying, well, what's the point of having 100,000 viewers if only 5,000 are responding? And I'm like, what's the point of having 5,000 views if you're not getting any business out of it? Like what it comes down to is how much is this visibility really growing my business, and how many conversations am I able to start because of this content? So so don't get so hung up on the numbers. Just know that native video will get you more than the other stuff. But if you've got an area of expertise, then certainly showcasing that expertise, but not in I'm awesome and you should totally follow me because I'm a LinkedIn expert, but in like, here's some expertise that I'd like to share with you that you can now use too. So that's good. A lot of times interviews, one thing our friend Amy Landino did at Social Media Marketing World was she interviewed like 50 of the speakers, or 52 of the speakers, which was brilliant because she now has a native video every week for the following year. Like she got all of her content in one 3-day event. So that's that. And of course, she's phenomenal on video. So, that does really well. The other thing that does very well to talk about what Keenan does is being controversial. And starting those conversations. That's not for everybody, but for the people who do it well and are comfortable with that confrontation, it sure gets the engagement going. And as far as as far as storytelling, it was kind of funny. Mario Martinez, who's the CEO of my company, Vengresso, and Gabe Larson, who's the CEO of Inside Sales, they had a video war on LinkedIn where Gabe was talking about outbound and LinkedIn, and Mario was talking about inbound, and there was this war and they were going to duke it out. Well, it was all promotional to this webinar that they did together, which, by the way, that war between the two of them, and you can't see my little quotation marks, but they're all obviously very good friends. That war between the two of them drove more signups to that webinar than Inside Sales had ever received before.
That is absolutely brilliant.
Right?
Just thinking about, you met them, Andrew and Pete from Newcastle.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. I love those guys.
Such fun guys. I really like them.
Yes.
And they were having these lots of faux combats,
yes.
Who can do the goofiest? No. I'll see your goofy and raise you.
I'll raise it one. Yes, exactly.
Raise you a schmoes.
So true. That is so true.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. So tell me, when it comes to frequency, do you have any thoughts about how often people need to be seen to kind of get a bit of traction going?
Yeah. And so this is definitely a case of do as I say and not as I do. I do it on the fly, just in time. Oh, I just found out this new toy on LinkedIn. Let me open it up and share it with everybody. So that's what I do. And that's not necessarily the best way of doing it. Really setting expectations. While this isn't Facebook Live, while this isn't Instagram Live, while it's not stories, while it doesn't have that kind of immediacy that those other social tools and video platforms have, I would still say, set expectations. So if you want to do it more like a story, like a Facebook story or an Instagram story, then do a short one every day. It doesn't have to be very long, but people will grow to expect that, right? And look forward to it, especially if you can make it like a story and have a chapter every day, as it were, something like that. Make it like a serialized content. Almost nobody is doing that. Maybe nobody, I'm going to say almost nobody.
One person I can think
you?
of. No,
okay.
It's not. It is my partner in crime, a fellow called Stefan Vera, who's a Europe's leading expert on body language. And so we've now got a double act going on storytelling. Nice. But he does.
I love it.
Yeah.
So I think that's brilliant. And, it's in my plans to do, but I haven't gotten there yet because it takes a little bit of a time commitment, obviously. And also I have to do my hair every day that way. That's the problem with being a woman is so many, which is why I love Zoom, which we're on right now. Ladies, and I guess gentlemen, if you care about this stuff, but ladies especially, Zoom has a setting that's called Touch Up My Appearance. And in case you didn't know about it, it's freaking magic. And I wish I could just have it everywhere. It's like you got Botox and a facial and professional makeup done right before you went on screen. And it's just a filter. I'm using it now. Or you can also set expectation by going, okay, I'm going to do a video and release it every Friday at 3 p.m. or whatever time it is. Generally LinkedIn is Monday through Friday from 9 to 5, or let's actually now call it 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. because of commuting time. And, obviously your video will show up when it shows up, and people will share it when they share it. But if you get people into the habit of knowing that this video is coming, there's a chance that you'll develop your audience a little bit more. That
expectation and consistency.
The expectation,
I love that. Now, let me ask you this. So obviously these are all the good things to do.
Yes.
Are there any tragic no-nos? What were you thinking? Seriously, don't do that again. Things you see people doing.
Well, there are some people who just plain and simple should not be on video. I mean, and if you've practiced and tried, and I'm not talking about weight, age, skin tone, I'm not talking about any isms.
Yes.
I'm just talking about people who are so freaking uncomfortable with video that it really hurts their brand. Then don't do it. Like, don't do anything that's going to hurt your brand. If don't do anything that's going to hurt your brand, and you know who you are. And if you really shouldn't be doing video, then don't do video. Another thing is when your LinkedIn profile is your own.
Yes.
So you can do what you want to with your profile. Having said that, when it comes to sharing content on LinkedIn, if you work for a larger company, they may have a social sharing policy. So don't do anything that'll get you fired.
Yes. Yeah.
A lot of people, and I'm sorry, I just strongly believe that LinkedIn is not the place for political or religious posts unless you're a politician or a minister, and then it's your business. But in most cases, LinkedIn is not the place for political rants. Yeah. A friend of mine lost like 200,000 followers because he's very, very anti-Trump, which so am I, but still, I don't go on and on and on about it on LinkedIn, just on Facebook.
That's an ongoing discussion in our household, but anyway.
No doubt. And, it's, but LinkedIn is not the place for it for me as a business person who works with some conservative and Republican companies. I mean, so I can't. Now he was very much like, screw them if they can't take my political agenda. And I'm like, okay, well, you can probably say that because, you're famous. But but for most of us, that's not a decision that we should take lightly. And also profanity. God bless Jim. I could never get away with the profanity that he does because I work for a company with 4 founders who all very much, are know our audience and know what they're turned off by. And so, things like that.
And it doesn't work really for most business settings for the simple
It doesn't.
reason, if you get even one person who's going, wouldn't have gone there, you're kind of polluting the audience, aren't you?
Yeah. And then the conversation around that particular video becomes around the word that you used and not the content of the video itself.
Yeah.
And similarly, people who do video just to shock people, but there's no real that, like, Jim's content is good. Like he shocks people, but it's also, it's good stuff. You learn something. If you're just doing it to shock people, you might get that visibility, but is it building your brand at all? What story are you telling with that? Yeah. So shocking people just to shock people, that doesn't work very well. And then, the purely promotional stuff. Once in a while, absolutely do something promotional. Do a promotional video. Why not? But most of the time, like anything I do that's like, hey, I want to invite you to my, I'll do a live native video, but hey, I wanted to invite you to my webinar. We're going to be talking about this, and that. Hope to see you there. Use promo code Vivica. Check out the link in comments below. Hope to see you, blah, blah, blah. That's going to get significantly fewer views than just sharing the content and adding the link below. So be careful with how you're portraying your content as well.
No, I love that. And actually then just thinking, and you've been full of wonderful tips, so I really appreciate it. So I've just really got two questions for you. One of them has to do with, so historically groups were very important in terms of connecting with people, but that's kind of gone by the wayside, I think.
Sure has.
So is that basically yesterday's news?
I think groups are yesterday's news, but thank you because we've just been talking about video and there's so many other ways to tell your story, of course, on LinkedIn. So I don't know if everyone has it yet. I'm usually the last to get something. So I figure if I've got it, probably everybody else does too. But there's something on LinkedIn. If you go to your homepage and it's on the left-hand side, kind of underneath that little thumbnail that talks, that who's viewed your profile, views your post. So underneath that, there's something called your communities. And these are a combination of like They're really kind of a combination of Instagram, hashtag communities, and even like a tweet chat. Just think of it as the slowest tweet chat ever. But it what LinkedIn has done, like the first thing you'll see, because you won't have pinned anything yet, is hashtags you follow. And so LinkedIn's little, artificial intelligence algorithm thing that they do will look at the content, the people that you connect with, the content you share, the content that you like, the content that you comment on, and it's going to pull the most common, at least this is what I think it's doing. It's going to pull the most common, like storytelling is one of them right here. It's going to pull the most common hashtags in your activity, essentially. Now from that,
yes,
it's really cool. And then you can click on Discover More and see what other hashtags are being shared out there. And then from there, you can pin hashtags. So these are hashtags that you want to follow a little bit more, a little bit more strategically. And so, like, I have creativity, digital marketing, personal branding, social media, advertising and marketing, professional women, and entrepreneurship, because those are interests of mine. Yeah. And so what's neat about this is I can now, and let me just for fun, let me just click on the storytelling one.
That's really good. Yeah.
Is that cool? Yeah. And so I can click on that hashtag. It shows me how many people are, quote, following that hashtag. But it shows all the people who are sharing that hashtag in their tweets, and it gives me an opportunity, or not their tweets, in their updates, and it gives me an opportunity to comment and engage with like-minded individuals. So it's like having an active, group, but no one owns it, right? No one owns it. No one owns the hashtag. Isn't that cool? Yeah.
I love this. So that's my favorite discovery of the day.
There we go. And by the way, that video will be going up on YouTube, and as soon as it goes up on YouTube, I can add it as a native video. So that will be this week's native video that goes up.
Yeah, fantastic. I love that.
It's really cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, so one last question. If you had just one tip that you would give to a business leader, a business expert who wants stories noticed on the profile side of things, what is the number one thing that if you haven't done, do it like now?
Yeah. So I'm going to give you one answer, but it's of course got multi levels, as every answer I give ever does. So you want to change your profile from being a resume and more of a resource for individuals. So, by becoming a resource, you set the expectation that I've got, resources for you to look at, which is where you can start to add elements of your story. So when I speak of elements of your story, things like your background image, what can your background image tell people? What story does your background image? Is there a picture of you, speaking at a conference with an audience of 10,000 people? That tells a story. Is your background image reflecting the 15 books you wrote, or the 5 or the 1 book you wrote? Is your background image a picture of you, shaking hands with Sir Richard Branson? What story do you want to tell with that background image? So that's kind of step number 1. Step number 2, make sure your image, the picture of yourself that you upload actually looks like your video, if you're going to be doing video, because, we don't want that disconnect. Yes. Oh my God. So many people out there, you're like, oh, whoa, what? Like, it can be the best version of you, but it still has to be a version of you. Yeah. Your professional headline, which is that section underneath your name, you can tell the world's shortest story there, right? But most people just have title at company. But you've got between 120 and 210, if you use it on mobile, characters, not words, but characters to tell your story. And then you can use your summary section to expand upon your story. And that is where people really miss the mark, where they have not expanded on their summary section. They're just using it to talk about themselves. No one gives a what. People want to actually be able to identify themselves in your story. right? And so you need to know who your audience is and write for them, and recognize their needs and address those needs. That becomes part of the story you tell in your summary. And then, as I mentioned before, uploading those resources, whether it's video, PDFs, links, websites, but creating those resources that continue to tell your story, interviews that you've had, keynotes that you've given, SlideShare presentations, all of those things can tell your story. And then we can get into the content piece, which right now I'm real hot on the actual
I love
native
that.
video.
I did a scan today of your quite expertly done LinkedIn profile. It should be. And I was blown away by just how much stuff. I mean, I thought I was doing all right, but my goodness, I'm in the halfpenny place. So I thought that was terrific.
Well, thank you. I try to what is it, cobbler?
I try to
walk the talk. There we go.
Good. Well, listen, Viveka, can I just thank you for an awesome, I was going to use the word cacophony, but I'll use it anyway. A collection of brilliant and insightful ideas. I think people will love it. And for people who want to learn more about you, and in particular about the resources that you all provide, where should they go?
Yeah. So if you want to find out about, my profile is a resource, obviously. So if you Google LinkedIn expert, my LinkedIn profile is the first one that shows up. So by all means, connect with me, tell me that you heard me on the show, and I'll make sure to, I'm at my limit, but if you customize the invitation and tell me you heard me here, then I'll make sure to connect with you. Of course, I've got a ton of resources that I share on my profile that you can have access to, whether we're connected or not. The website, vengresso.com, it's not just me that's an expert in my company. I've got 3 other colleagues that are amazing. And so our blog, our podcasts, there's just a ton there in the world of social selling and LinkedIn that you might, in digital sales transformation, that you might find useful. So by all means, Vengresso, VENGRESO, follow us on Twitter. Our YouTube channel has a bunch, anything that any of us does for native video. We also put, as long as it's relevant, we also put it on our YouTube channel. So it's just a conglomeration of really helpful, useful tips from all of us. So yeah, that's a couple good places where you can find me.
Awesome. Well, guys, so listen, first of all, thank you for all listening in today. And honestly, if you're looking for any advice on LinkedIn, you've got to look at Viveka's content. It is wall-to-wall awesome. But thank you all for listening in to the Corporate Storytellers Club podcast. And until the next time, here's to awesome stories that inspire.